Okay, we're live. Today we're talking about JavaScript objects and how to persist those objects to a JSON file, and how the JSON can be imported into mongodb so that those objects can be persisted to another web application. My name is Andy Turner. I'm the Education Technologist for Illinois College, and joining us today is Danny You're from the Computer Science Department here at Illinois College. Hey, Danny.
Hello, how's it going?
Going good. I'm showing my screen right now, and this is a talk that Mishko Henry gave from Google Tech Talk a while back, and he was talking about objects and how to update an object with a new attribute. And we go back to that YouTube video. I will play a segment in this showing how one can experiment with JavaScript objects in the Google Chrome browser. So this is a quick ramp-up program. So he's using Google Chrome, and he's hit F12, and he's typing in commands to the Google Chrome browser. So as he said, we basically have an object, and we're going to add attributes to those objects. Here at Illinois College, we teach Java, and you can create JSON with Java, and you can pull information from a database using Java's MySQL connector J. And what that will do is let you use a library like JSON Simple, which will turn the results of a database query from MySQL into a JavaScript object notation file. And that's what we've been doing throughout our internship here over the summer at Illinois College. Now the question is, we can read from the database and create JavaScript objects, and even a JavaScript object array. And how do we then update that array in HTML and persist that to the database so that we can retain those updates? Say another user wants to update a menu application, and they want to save additional updates in a way that's user-friendly, but yet it updates the database so that you can show the end user those menu web pages that are constantly up to date. So you would have two different web pages, one web page that allows you to enter data more from an administration standpoint that you have to log into, and another application like an iPhone app or a web page formatted for mobile that would show you that current menu without having to go to the trouble of logging in or things like that. I'm going to go ahead and show my screen again, and then we will talk about how to update the JavaScript object. So here in Chrome, I'll go ahead and hit F12, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on the console. Can you see that, Danny?
No, I'm not able to see that.
That screen share should be pointing to my screen now.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. That text might be a little fuzzy, so I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and say var menu equal left bracket, left curly brace, double parent, and Danny, what would you say would be a good object to start out with?
For the cafeteria project,
Yeah.
the name of the meal.
Okay. We'll go ahead and do the name of the meal, and let's see if we can get you involved in this. You can see my screen. We can also see your screen too. And you click on Google Hangouts, the second button from the top that says screen share.
Mm-hmm.
When you click that, it will let you pinpoint one of the windows you have open.
I see.
So do you want to show your existing JavaScript object notation file that you've created for meals in Sublime Text?
The JSON file.
Yeah.
I have it right here.
And start screen share. Good. And we'll scroll down to, let's do the breakfast. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Danny's screen now. So now, this is a JavaScript object, a notation file, a JSON file called menu.json. And Danny, do you want to, I'm going to go ahead and unmute. I'm going to mute my microphone, and I'm going to unmute yours if you wanted to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
I will unmute mine. And your microphone should be on now.
So like Candy said, this is the menu.json file. Here I have a variable for breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and soups. Um, I have a name attribute, ingredients, name for each um, item, and I included that into my HTML page, which shows which is this one. I was able to uh, get the data onto the HTML page. Here's what it looks like. I have the Aloha chicken with only 160 calories and the teriyaki meatballs with only 110 calories, and that came from my JSON file.
You might want to click on the upper left screen share again.
Share this one. Hangouts. Let's see.
I know. Hit hold Alt and then tab over back to Hangouts.
Hangouts.
Yes.
There we go.
I know. Yeah. And then the green one. And when you click that,
This one.
so that's back to your camera now. If you click that again, now choose your window that shows the menu that you just showed. So I think it's back to where you were. See okay, the one directly, okay, the one right there. Yeah, when you click that and share that, they will see what you were talking about when we go to the tab that had your invert. Now they can see your.
Now they can see. So this is the HTML page for the JSON that shows the JSON file. Here we have an Aloha chicken with only 160 calories and a string with the data from the JSON file. Now I'm gonna show you what the JSON file looks like, and go ahead. Documents. Should be this one. This is the JSON file. Like I said, I have a variable for breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and soups, and the HTML has access to this JSON file through this script tag. Here we can see the string, and that's all I have.
can you take the breakfast JSON?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I'll mute you and unmute me. Okay, so that's perfect. We've got some data now that Danny has showed for a breakfast object, and that's the most important object of the day. So we will have that come up, Danny, on your screen. If you go over to, if you click on menu.json on your screen, okay. So as Danny has here, var breakfast equal, and then left bracket and right bracket. I think the easiest thing to do would be for me to show how we would add an attribute to that object. So Danny, if you leave that object on your screen, I'm going to move the Hangout over to my screen. And now in the Hangout, you should be able to see me basically recreate real quick on the fly Danny's object. So I'm going to have name, colon, and then omelets, comma, colon, next, eggs, so on and so forth. And now I'm going to block that off with a right curly brace and hit comma, and then another left curly brace. So this is an array that's delimited with left and right curly brace pairs. The next one would be an object in the array with the name milk, comma, and then the calories. It's good because you have say 79 here, and I won't put that in double quotes just yet to show the difference between the values of attributes in a JSON array. So I'll go ahead and make one more. Let's go ahead and do name, colon, tater. And then the key value pairs, in this case name is the key and tater tots is the value, separated by a comma. And then we have again calories and then colon and then an integer value 60. But I'm going to do like what Danny did here. I'm going to put it in a string, so 60 calories like this, double quotes. And then I'm going to block that third object off with a right curly brace and then close the array with a right bracket and then semicolon. Now here in Chrome, when I hit enter, it tells me undefined, and that's fine because when I type menu and hit enter, it shows me that I have 3 objects. Now Danny, you can feel free to navigate to the screen in the Google Hangout that I'm showing. So notice that when I hit menu, I see 3 objects, but I don't see the contents of the objects. So in that case, I have to be able to say menu sub0 dot name. What happens when I do that? I get omelets. As you can see here, the name of the first object in the array is calories. So I'm doing essentially a lookup here. I'm saying get the first object in the menu array and return its name to me, omelets. Now that's great. I can now read from JavaScript object notation, and you can display that in HTML just like Danny showed. Now the real question is, how do we write to the object? And if I scroll this slideshow over that Mishko Hevery has provided at a Google Tech Talk, he's showing that an instance of his object called obj1 is true. And here he shows how vehicle has a powered attribute, and that's true, but then he has another object called Volvo
with a seats attribute, and that has an integer value of 4. So Volvo has a seats attribute with the integer value of 4, but Volvo doesn't have a powered attribute like vehicle does. As you can see, that returns undefined. Now, one of the constructs of programming is an object-oriented model, and in this case, Mishko is showing how, in general, a Volvo is a vehicle. And you can associate that relationship by saying that the prototype of a Volvo is, in general, a vehicle. And if you make that association through inheritance, which is one of the 3 tenets of object-oriented programming, then vehicle has a property called powered, and that can trickle down to the Volvo instance of that vehicle object with the powered attribute of true as well when you associate Volvo to vehicle using underscore underscore proto underscore underscore here. So he's saying that Volvo dot underscore underscore proto underscore underscore equals vehicle is true. And when he makes that association, he can then say Volvo dot powered is true, because even though Volvo's powered attribute wasn't specified, defining the prototype of Volvo as vehicle gives Volvo the access to the powered attribute of vehicle. So in this case, we've got a breakfast object. Now, a breakfast object is a type of meal. So the meal would be the prototype of breakfast. And we would say that a meal has an ingredient. So in that term, a menu would have an ingredient, it would have a calories, and it would have a name. Now, since a breakfast is a type of meal, we would want to structure our database in such a way that the menu is, in general, the top-level parent of all child objects, so to speak. So the menu would have attributes such as name, calories, and you would also have ingredients. Instances of the menu object would be breakfast, lunch, soup, etc. Soup would have calories, it would have a name, it would have ingredients. A drink might not really have ingredients. So that's the beauty of using a non-relational database such as MongoDB, and that's what we're going to show today. How do I update this object called menu? What if I were to say menu dot price? Undefined. There is no price attribute specified. What if I needed to add that? So we would have to be able to say menu sub 0 dot price equals $1. Now if I return menu sub 0, whereas before I didn't have a price, now I do. This object exists in Chrome browser's memory. If I close this browser tab, the price will go away because Danny's text file cannot be accessed by my browser. If I were to create a virus and to be able to run JavaScript code on Danny's computer, I could potentially change his JSON file to have the price of 1 where the first object in his JSON array for meals has a quality. Now that would be a beneficial virus, so to speak. But we don't want just anybody to go in here and change the price to get half off of the breakfast. So what do we do to secure Danny's object for menus? We would have to set up a database that would allow only specific users to edit that. In this case, for simplicity's sake, we're going to go into a database directly, and then we're going to show how one would import a JavaScript object notation file into a database and then pull that out and then push it into the database. So you would read from the database and you would write to the database. You can see with modern web technologies, using something like ember.js, that would allow you to create a cache of the database. And it would load that cache as objects in memory. And if you look at Ember data, it's in beta 2 right now. It is essentially a layer of data that stores in your browser the current meals that Danny's created. If on your iPhone you have Chrome open and you go to Danny's website that has these menu objects and you don't clear your cookies, which very few people do that on a regular basis, then you will have the price attributes still remaining in your browser if you were to update it like that. So that's one way to think about local storage. And there's just something called local DB or web storage in HTML5. For our purposes, that's all we really care about. Notice I can click these disclosure triangles in the object, and the eggs and cheese ingredient has a price, but the milk does not. So if we were to create an application that could update these objects, we certainly could by calling these functions of the browser. Value of toString. And we could set those objects as such. But what we really want to do is just connect to a database and persist that JSON file. So I'll show you how that works, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up the talk. In MongoDB, there are many tutorials, but the first thing you see on their website is that you have a JSON-styled document with a dynamic schema. Well, what does that mean in plain English? That basically means that Danny's schema for a menu has specific attributes: name, ingredient, calories. Notice that his omelet doesn't have calories in this copy of it. Notice that milk doesn't have any ingredients. There's no ingredients to milk, it's just milk. So if this were a SQL database, you would have to have a relational system where every possible attribute is included in every table. So if this were a SQL database or a MySQL database, omelets would have to have a calories, and milk would have to have an ingredients. Now that doesn't make any sense, but it has to be that way. All possible attributes have to be included in a relational database. But with MongoDB, it's different. It's not static, it's dynamic, and that's what that means, is that MongoDB doesn't have to have every possible attribute in every possible object. It's dynamic, it's not static. A schema basically means the schematic of Danny's object means that it could have an ingredient, it could have a calorie, it could have a price. And that schema needs to be flexible. That's what we mean when we say that MongoDB is agile and scalable. It's humongous. So when we want to create a new attribute to this JSON document, we're able to do so by pushing new arrays into MongoDB. So how do we think about MongoDB in terms of a normal database? You think about it in terms of collections of JSON documents. So if we want to import a JSON array into MongoDB, very easy. Mongo import is a command you can run where one of the attributes is import JSON array. And here's how you would do so. You would say Mongo import --db, and you would specify the database, which in Danny's case would be menu. Then you would say dot collection. And the collection would be, say, breakfast. All possible breakfasts would be in the breakfast collection. All possible lunches would be in the lunches collection. And the breakfast and the lunch collections would be in the meals database. Now, every 2 weeks, we would want to update the breakfast array. So we would run Mongo import --db menu dash dash JSON array meals.json. And then we would specify the path to the JSON document that Danny showed. When we do so, we will be able to use JavaScript to run queries on that database using Ember data, so that an API representing all of the possible meals, that would be an API. It would be a REST-based API. And then you'd be able to say /breakfast /Tuesday. Tuesday would be a collection referring to the breakfast collection. So Tuesday would be a property of some breakfast, and it would be the breakfast that would be offered on Tuesday. You would pull that by saying /breakfast /Tuesday, and then you would map a button saying get today's meals. JavaScript would know it would be Tuesday. It would know that you're looking for meals, so it would look up the meals database's meals JavaScript view, and it would show you specifically Tuesday's breakfast in that way. Hopefully that makes sense. You can see how you can update JavaScript using this Mongo import, and how when someone would enter Tuesday's breakfast in a web page, that would update the database. And Ember.js is one way to provide an interface to the data. Now we'll go ahead and wrap it up, but Danny, I've been talking long enough. I'm going to turn the screen back over to you. If you wanted to show your to-do Ember.js application, I'll go ahead and turn the screen back over to you, Danny, and I will mute myself.
Here we go. Well, I will show you what my Ember application, to-do application looks like. I recently completed it. It's working so far. I'll show you. It should be. I'm sorry, I'm kind of new. This technology is kind of new to me. Chrome.
Top right hand.
No, here it is. So this is the Ember application. I basically did it and get it done with the help of Ember tutorials. As you can see, it's working so far. I can add new to-dos. I get to edit those to-dos. I can also eliminate or delete each one of those as I want. I get to check the ones that I just completed, and which will be displayed on the completed tab. Here we can go back to the active ones and add some new tags, and back to the all. You can see the new all the to-dos entered, and basically I pretty much personalized this tutorial to show a background of Illinois College Kirby building, and we can also clear the completed task with this button. And this is it. Ember application working so far.
That's awesome. I looked at that picture of Illinois College, and you did a great job creating this thing.
Thank you.
Well, if you want to go ahead and let them know that we're signing off, and maybe we'll have another tech talk in a few weeks.
Well, like Andy said, we'll keep working on this. trying to get as much as we can, learning some new technologies and learning together as always. And hope to see you soon, and stay tuned.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and stop the broadcast.